A very good afternoon to all my dear students. Miss Ritu Tiwari, Akhilindeshwari, Purva, Aisha Sood, Aditi, Ananya, Pratibha. Good afternoon, children. Bharat Chaudhary, Lovepreet, Pramod K, Nikita, Kevin Prasanta, Tanmeet, Ayushi Bothra, Kavya, Sishti, Ashutosh, Swati Giri, Shiri Farhan, all those who have written, we have revised the first part of Unit 1, Unit 3 also. That's really great. And yes, definitely, as promised, Mr. Soumya Ranjan, good afternoon, child. We will be definitely discussing the descriptive questions. We'll be doing the mock test papers today, first of all, and then we'll be moving ahead and completing our Unit 3, that is transfer of ownership and property of goods. All right. So I hope no more queries were left unanswered last time. Farheen, Taj, Yash, Nazhat, Ishita, Shrikantya, Bhumi, Mohammed. Good afternoon, children. Gufran, Tamanna, Arpi, Niklesh, all of you. Great. So before we start with the descriptive question papers, children, I just wanted to show you a very small thing in your Unit 1 study material. So you all have to open your study material of Unit 1. And I want to ask you a question. Do you remember the difference between sale and agreement to sell? Where we have discussed what is sale and what is... So who can give me a quick example? All right. So you remember agreement to sell. If I have decided to sell the goods at a future date, you came to me and I told you that I'll be selling you the goods after 10 days. So is it a sale or was it an agreement to sell? Quickly, you have to tell me, is it a sale or it was an agreement to sell? Yes. If I've asked you that I'll be selling you the goods after 10 days, it is always an agreement to sell. Excellent. Great. But let me tell you one thing very clearly. Section 4 subsection 3 tells you where the transfer of property is to take place at a future date or subject to some condition to be fulfilled. If I have told you that I'll be selling you the goods after few days, definitely, ma'am, we all have done last time also. It is an agreement to sell. Sale happens where the property is transferred immediately. Excellent. I got around 70 to 80 answers correct. So wonderful. So where we told about the transfer of property taking place at a future date, all my children know that it is an agreement to sell. But if I told you that there are certain conditions to be fulfilled, some arrangement was to be made on the goods, or the goods were not ready right now, you have to come at a later date, so that the conditions, whichever things you have imposed on me as a buyer, I should fulfill that, and then you can take the goods. Then also it is an agreement to sell. Now, why I'm talking about this and why I have taken you over here, because today we are going to talk about a very, very important question. That is question paper from May 2022. So examiner can ask you a case study on the basis of a very tiny, minute line which is written in your study material. So the purpose of bringing you here in the study is that you are not going to leave even a single line from your study material. Everything has to be read very carefully. And when I say read between the lines, means you should be very sure about what topic is saying and where it is written and how the conditions needs to be read in completion. So all of you know about this point. Now let me just take you in the question paper link. So I think I'll have to stop the share and then open the link and then take you over there. So I'll just open the May 2022 paper. So I told you I'll be telling you also around 16 or 14 to 16 marks question paper generally come from Sale of Goods Act. So today we are going to see how the question paper comes, and today's session is very, very important, children, because we are going to do descriptive case studies also, plus we are going to do n number of examples of Unit 3 from all the study material. We are going to cover the examples. So be here with me and listen very carefully and keep making your notes as and when I ask you to write. So it's a very important session of today's. So these first three questions that come under question 1, that is A, B, and C, the pattern that has been coming from last 7 to 8 years is we always have the first question from Indian Contract Act, children, which you have already done. The second one is generally from the companies, which we'll be doing soon in the month of January. And the third part, the 4 marks question, is straight away a question from Sale of Goods Act. So if you'll see the trend, I'll show you in other papers also. Generally, first question ka jo C part hai, that is a 4 marks question from Sale of Goods. It is mostly a direct question. So the question says, what are the consequences of destruction of specified goods before making the contract and after agreement to sell under the Sale of Goods Act? Now, if you have revised your content, can you tell me which chapter this question falls under? You remember we have discussed this in chapter unit 1, where we talk about perishable goods perishing before making the contract or after an agreement to sell, where we discussed that example that we are having a cup of coffee and the goods got destroyed in the godown. Who will be held liable? What will happen in such a case? So you all remember that we discussed that the contract becomes void in that case. There will be no liability on the part of either parties. So straight away question 4 marks has come. And as it is, you can write the answer. Now here he's showing you the answer, section 7 and 8, the way it is written in the study material. So all those who ask me, ma'am, हमें ऐसे ही लिखना है, अपनी language में भी लिख सकते हो. Definitely you can write it in your own language also. There is no hard and fast rule. The main purpose is that the content should be correct. As far as the content is correct, you're writing it nicely, correctly, even your own language is fine. So it says the contract for specific good becomes void if when the contract was made, the goods get so damaged or they don't answer the description. And the second point was section 8, where it says even after making an agreement, if the goods get perished or become damaged, the agreement can be avoided. Fair enough. 4 marks. Get 4 complete marks if you remember your sections. You remember your sections, write the sections, otherwise never mention a wrong section. Even if you don't mention the sections, you just mention these 2 points, your answer is complete. Question number 2, which comes in the exam, is generally from Indian Contract Act and Limited Liability Partnership. Your major part of your syllabus that is covered is from Indian Contract Act. So you have already done that and you must be having a fair knowledge about it. LLP is again something which you will be covering after partnership. Then come to question number 3. So far only 4 marks question we have seen in sale of goods. Question number 3 also does not have anything from sale of goods. Then question number 4 has a 6 marks question which come under Sale of Goods Act. Sorry, children. Yes. What are the implied conditions in a contract of sale by sample, and also state the implied warranties? Now, such a straightforward question came in May 2022. Had I been at your place, I would have jumped out from my seat because I know I can guaranteedly get 6 marks, full 6 marks, because it is very simple. We have done sale by sample. In case of sale by sample, what is the implied condition? Goods shall correspond with the sample. Buyer should be given an opportunity to compare the sample with the bulk, and there should be no hidden or latent defects. If such condition of sample is breached, buyer can repudiate the contract, he can return the goods and claim his money back. Clear ho gaya? And what is the second part of the question? Now, what mistake children generally make? They will read sale by sample, implied conditions, sab kuch likh kar aa jayenge, example likh denge. They will not read that the second part is a different question. Also state the implied warranties. What are the implied warranties? Free from encumbrances, disturbed, undisturbed possession of goods, warranty as to quality and fitness, custom, usage and trade. All the 4 points that are given in the study material, as it is, you have to mention that. See, children, such a straightforward question. So 10 mark question paper we have covered from sale of goods, that is as it is. So these 3 points of section 17 and these 4 warranties, if you write, you get your full 6 marks. So question number 1, third part, 4 marks question. Question number 4, first part, 6 marks question, sale of goods. And after that, question number 5, the first part of 6 marks has your descriptive case study from sale of goods. So 16 mark question papers come from sale of goods app. Now, this is the case study question because it has come in May 22. It is a very new question. You have not seen this question first. You are reading it for the first time. So since we have done this topic, we will read it and try to find the answer for that. But you have to promise me you'll not cheat the answers. I'll ask you the answers first and then we'll see who has sent the correct answer. And then I'll tell you how to write the answer. All right. No worries, Arun Kumar. It's okay. Okay, question number 5. Sonal went to jewelry shop and asked the sales girl to show her diamond bangles with ruby stones. Now, what is ruby stones? If you have little bit knowledge about jewelry, children, there are certain things like gold, diamond, and there's certain precious stones that you put in your rings or maybe in your bangles. They can be emerald, which are green color stones. Rubies, again, red color stone. So rubies of red color, emerald is of green color. Then you have different kind of stones. So you don't have to have the knowledge about this kind of thing, but just because the question is about this topic, so you should know what it is talking about. So Sonal is a girl. She went to a jewelry shop and now she's seeing the diamond bangles. And she tells her that I want the diamond bangles with ruby stones. Ruby stones means red color stones. Jeweler told her that we have a lot of designs, but with red stones. उसने कहा मेरे पास ruby stones नहीं है, मेरे पास बहुत सारे designs हैं, उनमें कुछ red stones डले हुए हैं. And if she chooses for herself any special design with red stones, we will replace the red stones with ruby stones. Fair enough. Shopkeeper said, we have too many diamond bangles and they have red stones. Whichever you will choose for yourself, we will get your red stones replaced with the ruby stones. But for the ruby stones, they will charge extra cost. Sonal selected a beautiful set of designer bangles and paid for them. And she also paid the extra cost of ruby stones. अब उसने क्या करा? उसने designer set उठाया, diamond bangles उठाई, choose करी, and उसने कहा, this is the extra cost. Jeweler must have said you have to pay this much amount. She paid that amount for ruby stones as well. Jeweler requested her to come back a week later for delivery of those bangles. Now, when he is requesting her to come after a week, the moment we come to know that the sale has not yet taken place, the sale is yet to take place. So this is the case of agreement to sell. Property in goods is yet to pass at a future date or certain conditions needs to be fulfilled. And here the condition that needs to be fulfilled is rubies needs to be placed in the bangle. And when she came after a week to take the delivery, she noticed that instead of ruby stones, that due to the ruby stone, design of bangles has been completely disturbed. Now, what would have happened? Jeweler has inserted those ruby stones and he has spoiled the entire design. It was a very beautiful design that she liked it and she wanted it as it is. And now by replacing the stones, by taking out and putting in other stones, the designs have got completely disturbed. And she wants to terminate the contract. उसको गुस्सा आया buyer को, उसने कहा मुझे करना ही नहीं आपके साथ contract, and she asked for her money back. But the jeweler denied. Now you, my future chartered accountants, have to tell me, can Sonal recover the amount from jeweler? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am, and why? Let me see how very nicely you have been revising. I have given you a hint also. It is a case of agreement to sell. And now you have to tell me, can Sonal recover the money? Yes or no? Very good, Abhishek. That was unit 1. Great. Okay, Miss Siri, yes. So Miss Siri, yes, says that she has attempted May 2022. So you can tell me what answer you have written over there. Siri Govri. Okay. Hi, Siri Govri. Please give me the answers, children. Yes, Swati Giri, Aisha Sood, Manish Jain, you're all right. It is agreement to sell. That's great. I'm waiting to get the answers from you now. The sample didn't match the goods. Harshita is talking about sample here. Ritu Tiwari, Mehak Roy, Yash Raj, Kevin, Aisha, Pramod K, all of you are sending me the correct answers. Very good. What about others? So can Sonal recover money? Can she terminate the contract? The answer is yes, Sonal can recover the money because the condition that was to be fulfilled has not been fulfilled. Property was yet not passed from the seller to the buyer. She told that what design she wants and then they didn't do that. Very good, Miss Kavya V. Correct answer. Swati Giri, Shweta Sharma, Ritu, Purva, RP, all of you are correct. RN Kumar says no because the condition is fulfilled. No, condition is not fulfilled. The sample that she has shown, the bangle that she has selected for herself, the design that she wanted has got completely changed. Now let us understand how they have interpreted and how they have written the answer. So I just showed you in the study material section 4 subsection 3, which defines when the goods are to be transferred at a future date. It is not a contract of sale, it is an agreement to sell. So ये जो पहला उसने paragraph लिखा है, you can simply write in your own language also that where the property is passed immediately, it is a contract of sale. Where the property passes at future date or subject to some conditions to be fulfilled, then it is an agreement to sell. Agreement to sell becomes sale only when the conditions are fulfilled or when the time lapses. So here time has lapsed, 1 week is over, but the conditions to be fulfilled needs to be seen, subject to which the property is transferred. Now these are known as the concern provisions. These are known as concern provisions that you have to write down, that these are the provisions of law, and then you write in the exam the facts of the case. So what are the facts of the case? Entire story that the examiner has given you, you have to form the briefing from the question and then you write its facts. So the facts of the case are, on the basis of the above provision, it can be said there was an agreement to sell between Solon and jeweler and not the sale. Even though the payment was made, property can be transferred only after fulfillment of the conditions. But since the original design got disturbed due to ruby stones, bangles are not in original position, Sonal has the right to void the agreement and recover the price. Now children, this question you can answer in your own words as well. You can also say that there has been a breach of condition. So the condition that was imposed was that the design will remain same. She has also paid the extra cost for that, the ruby stones. And now since you can use the word sample also, the sample which was shown is not now matching. That is also the condition that you can use. You can also say that implied condition has been breached. You can also use the word conditions for the agreement to sell has not been fulfilled. That's why she can avoid the contract and recover the price money. It is only the way you want to interpret and you want to answer it out. All right. Now, what happens in the second part of the question? Let us read the second part of the question first. What will be your answer if jeweler says he can change the design, but he will charge extra cost for the same? So she says, even if jeweler wants to bring the bangles in original by repairing, he cannot charge extra. Even though he has to bear the expenses, he cannot charge it from Sonal. Why he will not charge? Because seller was at fault. Why he cannot charge over here? Because seller was at fault. Therefore, it is his duty to rectify the bangles and give it to Miss Sonal. Remember that woolen washing machine for washing woolen clothes? I told you if it is not fulfilling your purpose, you can go and return it. It doesn't mean that if he tries to repair it or do something, he will charge extra from you. Seller will not charge. No? Seller will do something so that the products become exactly the same kind of description that you want. So now here, since seller was at fault, therefore, Even if he tries to, this seller, jeweler tries to bring the bangles in its original position by incurring certain costs, then also he cannot recover such expenses from the buyer. Clear ho gaya sabko? Everyone is clear about this point now? And after that, we have Companies Act questions. We have not done Companies Act, so we will not even read these questions. This is also from Indian Contract in question 6. Again, from companies also, huge questions comes. So, and this is your end of question paper from business law. After this, you have your business correspondence and reporting. So children, have you got an idea? 16-mark question paper comes from your Sale of Goods Act. So I hope you understood the case study that we have discussed. If you want, we can take up one more question paper so that you get an idea about how to write the paper. We can take up another July 2021 question paper. So again, question number 1, Indian contract, companies, and the first question that we have, risk prima facie passes with the property. Now, this is the topic which we are going to cover today, section 26. So I'll teach you this topic. I cannot expect an answer since we have not done it together. So this is entirely section 26, which we are going to discuss today. So as of now, you can simply read that section 26 says that when the property is transferred to the buyer, then the goods buyer becomes the owner, he will bear the risk. Till the time property is not transferred, the goods are with the seller, he only remains the owner. So he has to bear all the risks. Clear? All right, let's move ahead. So this is which we'll discuss in detail in class today, section 26. After that, we move to question number 4, which has your Sale of Goods Act question. Discuss the rights of unpaid seller. Again, children, unpaid seller is part of your 4th chapter. We have not done it yet. So let us move to the descriptive case study. Question number 5, 6 marks question. A part is the case study that we have to do in the class right now. So you will listen carefully the case study and send me the answers. Mr. Das, a general store owner, went to purchase 200 kgs of basmati rice of specific length from a wholesaler. Now, this Mr. Das is the buyer. He want to purchase 200 kgs of rice of specific length. वो एक length सोच कर आए घर से कि मुझे इस length की ही basmati rice चाहिए. And now he's seeing the samples of rice and agreed to buy the one for which he has quoted the price 150 per kg. While examining the sample, Mr. Das failed to notice, very important line, failed to notice means उसने ध्यान नहीं दिया that rice contained a mix of long and short grain also. So Mr. Das wanted this kind of length of the rice and he checked the sample, and while checking the sample, there were the mixed quality of rice. They were small also and long grains also. But just while examining, he failed to notice that this rice has a mixture of long and short grains. And then he accepted the sample. Fair enough. Wholesaler supplied him the quantity as shown in the sample. When Mr. Das sold the rice to his regular customers, she complained that the rice has 2 different qualities and returned the rice. Now you have to tell me, with respect to Sale of Goods Act, the options available to Mr. Das for grievance redressal. What would be your answer in case Mr. Das specified his exact requirement? Now, there are always 2 parts of this question, children. First, answer me the first part. The customer got very angry and she refused to buy the rice and she returned it to Mr. Das. Now, what are the options available to Mr. Das for grievance redressal? This is the first part and this will be the second part. So first you have to answer me. Grievance redressal, children who are asking what is the meaning of grievance redressal. Grievance means if you have any anger for which you want to take an action. So it is a law terminology. For redressal means where will you address your grievance? So can Mr. Das go and express his anger with the seller? Can he return the rice? What remedy is available to him? What can he do? So you have to send me the answers to this. What will be your answer in this case? Yes ma'am or no ma'am सिर्फ नहीं लिखेंगे. You have to give me the reason also. Very good, Aditi Salvi. The previous question you have answered very nicely. Yes, Shrishti, you can say about the breach of condition as to quality and fitness was breached. That is also correct. You can also mention those 3 points that you relied on the seller skill and judgment. You can answer it that also. Okay, Mr. Vicky Kumar, I'm glad you are understanding the concepts. That's great. Yes, Ashutosh Pani, he's asking in descriptive questions, does the facts of case and conclusion contains marks? 100% marks are given on the basis of your presentation of the answer, child. You cannot simply write down yes or no in the answers. You have to express it in detail. Mr. Yash, you can write it in your own words. There is no word limit for these answers. Okay, Shakil, I hope you're answering for this one. No negative marking, Miss Mehak Roy. Okay, Ritu correct, Pramod correct. We cannot return the rise. It is the buyer's duty. Miss Mehak Roy, caveat emptor is applicable. Good. Purva is also good. Correct. Tamanna, Kavya, Harshita, Arpi, Yash. Oh my God, so many of you have sent. Srishti, Aisha, Sood, Shri, yes. Ayushi, Kavya, Nikhilesh. All right, children. Nikhilesh, your answer is not correct, but others, those who have sent that Mr. Das cannot recover the money, yes, that's correct. Why he cannot recover it? Now listen carefully. So it says, those who have said that, ma'am, it relates to sale by sample implied condition, that's 100% correct. Here we are talking about the contract of sale by sample. Nikhilesh, you're saying it is sale by sample and description. No, bacha, it is exactly the case of sale by sample because it is very clearly written Mr. Das wanted to buy and he saw the samples of rice and he agrees to buy. He is making a mistake. No, he is given an option. The bulk should match with the sample and the buyer is given a reasonable opportunity of comparing. So was Mr. Das given? Yes, Mr. Farheen Taj, your answer is correct. Siri Govri, Abhishek, Tanmeet, Aditi, all of you are correct, children. R.N. Kumar, okay, that's fine. I'll tell you about latent effects also, don't worry. Okay, so section 17, whenever you are making a sale by sample, 2 things has to be seen. The bulk should be with the sample in quality and buyer is given an opportunity to match the bulk with the sample. You will write, these are the provisions of the act. First point will be that you will be writing, you will mention about concerned provisions. Then you will mention the facts of the case. Mr. Das has seen the sample and he failed to notice. Then also he agreed to buy. In the light of the above provisions means this is the paragraph of conclusion. Mr. Das will not be successful as he has examined the sample, which exactly correspond to the entire lot without noticing the fact that even though the sample was of basmati rice, it contained the long and short grains. उसने कहा उसने खुद sample compare करा. It could have been discovered by Mr. Das by an ordinary examination that there is a mixture. This reflects lack of diligence on Mr. part of Mr. Das. That means he was not careful while examining. And now look at him. He's trying to become such a hero. One of his customer has returned the goods and now he wants to go for the grievance redressal. He has no option for going to grievance redressal because Mr. Das was at fault. He has not done the sample checking in correct way. And rule of caveat emptor statement can also be written over here. That's very well mentioned. Buyers should be aware. This lack of due diligence means that he was not aware while examining the goods by sample. So साफ बता रहा है वो कि sample में उसने देख भी लिया. Now children, you know what happened? Entire story is written, the entire answer is written in the question itself. Why, my dear children, don't get marks out of this 6 marks question? Because उनको लिखना ही नहीं आता है, भी बताना क्या है इसमें. तो आधे से ज्यादा बच्चे लिख कर आ जाएंगे, नो मैम, नो मिस्टर दास के नॉट address this for the grievance redressal. And examiner like me will put a cross and give 0 out of 6. Why? Because where is the answer? Why you're saying no ma'am or yes ma'am? I want this entire history, geography, what you have read, you have to apply that. So children, you are going to be future professionals. You should know how to apply these sections. So once you become chartered accountants, clients are going to come to you to understand, sir, this is the case that we are having in the court. Can we win this case? What will happen? You will not be the lawyers, you will be the CAs. So maybe with reference to certain context, you have to give your judgments also on the basis of sale of goods and contract, which you have studied as a part of your syllabus. All right. So there you have to give the detailed discussion that these are the provisions. This case deals with the sale by sample. The facts that has been shared that Mr. Das was negligent in reviewing the sample. Therefore, we conclude that he cannot now return the goods because the sample and the goods are matching exactly. Also, a rule of caveat emptor line can be written. What will be your answer if Mr. Das has specified his exact requirement? Then in that very case, it will become sale by sample as well as description. If he has specified, then there is a breach of implied condition that the goods must correspond with the description. And if they don't correspond, then the seller will be held liable. बहुत ध्यान से आपको क्वेश्चन पेपर पढ़ना है और उसके बेस पे आंसर करना है. इस सेकंड पॉइंट में exactly it talks about sale by sample and description. Here he's first quest में he's just checking the sample. But where second, he's specifically mentioning the exact requirement, then the goods shall correspond with the description as well. Clear, children? So I hope you got a fair idea about how to attempt paper, how to write such descriptive case studies as well. So after completing Unit 3 and Unit 4 of unpaid seller, we'll once again try to do certain descriptive questions once again as well. All right. Now coming back to the chapter where we were discussing and what we were doing, we have already done passing of property. We have done the 3 stages. All the section 19, 20, 21, 22 and 23 was also covered. So these are the specific goods put in the deliverable state, unascertain future goods, everything was done, right? We have done sale on approval and return basis as well. I think we had to start from the study material this time. Section 25 and section 26 were pending. All right. Let us understand first section 25. Reservation of right of disposal until fulfillment of certain conditions. Children, you remember section 23 subsection 2? Where I told you that once I have appropriated the goods, it is an unconditional appropriation. I'm not reserving the right of disposal. The property immediately gets transferred to the buyer and he becomes the owner and he will bear any loss if happens. Seller deliver the goods to the buyer or carrier for transmitting and does not reserve the right. In this case, seller will not be liable. This is what we discussed in the last class. Today, I'm going to tell you what is the meaning of reservation of right under section 25. X sends a furniture to a company by truck and instructs the driver not to deliver the goods until the payment is made by the company. Here the property will pass only when the payment is made. Such kind of appropriation of goods is known as conditional appropriation. Now, what is happening in the previous case, section 23, subsection 2, where we pick up the goods, pack them, and give it to the transporter, bailee, who is acting as the buyer's agent, it is considered that the property is immediately transferred and there is no reservation of right of disposal. But in this very case where I am telling the driver that you should not deliver the goods, here I have imposed a condition of my payment. I'm really worried that I've loaded the goods in such a huge truck and whether I'll get the payment or not. So I told this driver who is sitting over here that you will not give my goods to the buyer unless until I get the payment. Now my question to all of you sitting over here in front of me as my audience is that if this truck is met with an accident and all the goods in this truck get destroyed. Who will bear the risk, seller or buyer? In such very case, if the goods loaded in the truck are get spoiled or met with an accident, get destroyed, who will bear the risk? Mr. Abhishek is asking in the previous question, what if seller was stopping Mr. Das from examining? Did we mention anywhere that Mr. Das was not allowed? If this would have been the case and there would have been latent defects like Mr. Arendt was asking, then your answer would have been different. But it is nowhere written in the question that Mr. Das was not allowed. उन्होंने तो उल्टा साफ बताया that Mr. Das was allowed to review the samples and he only failed to notice. All right. So in that case, the answer remains the same. Yes, Mr. Akshay Kumar Bhambania, you can use it in write the answers in your own language also. So when we do more descriptive questions, I'll teach you exactly how to write the answers in your own language also. Yes, that's great. Mr. Yash Chandak is saying, without mentioning the section, it becomes so simple, just like a passage. So this is what you have to do. Like in English paper, you used to read the stories in the comprehension and you used to find the answers. Law paper descriptive questions are exactly the same way, but the only way is you should know how to impress the examiner by writing different kind of points of provisions, facts of case and conclusion. Ms. Kavya's stipulation is a representations made by the seller. Ms. Tamanna is saying that I have a doubt that the Mr. Das has specified the particular length. If we'll read the question again, Ms. Tamanna, he only wanted the specific length. He has not specified that length. That's why the second question asked that if we would have specified, then yes, it would have become the case of description. Thank you, Miss Sirius. I'm so glad to see your enthusiasm in the class. Great. Sale for cash only or return basis. Okay, Ashutosh, Manish, Nikhilesh, Surya, Meghna, Tamanna, Aisha, Sood, Aisha, Ritu, all of you are correct. Only Om Patel, who is writing buyer, is at risk. Aditi is writing buyer. You are wrong. Others, all those who have written seller will bear the risk because the property is not yet handed over. Ishita Raj, that's correct. Punjabi, Asif, Nidhi, all of you are correct, children, because Erudhya Rabina, seller is responsible. Excellent, children, because seller was the owner of the goods. He has not yet transferred the property of the goods to the buyer. So in case you have reserved the right of disposal, then seller only remains the owner unless and until the payment is made. And once the payment is made, buyer becomes the owner. Then if anything happens to the goods, buyer will be responsible. Clear ho gaya? Section 25 is also clear now. Risk prima facie passes with property, section 26. This is what examiner has asked you in July 2021 question paper. Also, 4 marks question has come straight away. So it says, unless otherwise agreed, seller will be at risk until the property is passed. And once the property is given to the buyer, buyer will be at risk. Whether delivery has been made or not. Now, this whether delivery has been made or not is very interesting. See, for example, I am the seller A and I had to sell you 100 bags of sugar. I have to give you 100 bags of sugar on 20th December. And today it is 28th December. I have still not supplied you the goods. And all these 100 bags of sugar got spoiled in my godown. A, the seller has made a fault in delivery. So even if the property in the goods has passed to the buyer, if I have made a default in delivery, who will bear the risk? Mr. A will bear the risk. Why? It says the general rule says the seller is at risk only when the property is not yet passed to the buyer. But there might be cases where any default is being made either by the buyer or by the seller, then children, we have to see that the party in default will be held liable for such kind of things. So let us read the exceptions of passing of the risk with the property. It says general rule is that seller will be at the risk if the property of the goods is with the seller. If this pencil, if I'm selling you this kajal. So if I am the seller, it is in my shop. I am taking care of all my other products and this product also. If fire occurred in my shop, I will be responsible for the risk. I sold you this kajal pencil. You purchase it from me. You become the owner. Whether you throw at this kajal or you use this kajal, whatever you want, it is your property. Now, if anything happens to it, you will be liable. So whosoever is the owner of the good will be bearing the risk. Remember, we wrote last time also, risk follows ownership. Now, what are the two conditions that we have to see in this case? Is if delivery is delayed by the fault of either the parties, then the goods remain at the risk of party in default. So if seller had to deliver the goods on 20th and he delivered it on 28th, but before 28th, fire occurred and all the goods got spoiled, he has still not delivered the goods, seller will be liable. If buyer was supposed to come and pick the goods on 10th of December and today, 28th of December, he has still not come, buyer is at fault, buyer will be responsible. So whatever circumstances is, whatever terms and conditions, buyer and seller will be responsible, whosoever makes a delay in either delivering the goods or if you make a delay in picking up the goods. But the duties and liabilities of the seller and buyer as bailee of the goods will not be affected even if the risk has passed. Now you remember that example where I told you last time you purchased certain chocolates and you left those chocolates at uncle's shop and you went for further purchases. And the fire occurred, uncle did not take care of your goods also and they were also destroyed. So your responsibility, even here in that case, the risk of goods was passed. Property was already passed to you. You were the owner. But the uncle should have taken care of the goods as a bailee. As a bailee means as a person of man of ordinary prudence, आपको ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा goods का. अगर goods आपके पास है, in a big contract, if the seller has sold 100 bags of sugar to Mr. B and Mr. B was to collect the goods and he could not, because of some reason, he has made a delay, he cannot come to pick the goods on time, then at least the seller's duty and liability as a bailee will definitely remain. He cannot say that I have taken care of my other bags of sugar, but I will not take care of your 100 bags of sugar which are lying in my godown. Why? Because I've already sold it to you. So as a bailee, you will always be responsible, even if the risk of the property has been passed to the buyer. All right. So who will bear the risk? We have already done these questions, or we were yet doing it. Let us quickly test your knowledge where you're thinking caps, and then we will complete this passing of property and risk from study material also. But since the questions have come first, so let us quickly see these questions as well. Property in goods, all my children know now, it means ownership of the goods. Who will bear the loss? We have done this also, person who is having the ownership of goods. If the specific goods is sold, I think we have not done this one. The property in the goods passes to the buyer immediately, at a later date, when the buyer decides, or none of the above. Okay. Send me the answer of this third question quickly, children. Miss Nidhi Yadav, in Diamond Bangles case, the seller was the owner because the property in the goods has not yet been passed. Only on the date when the goods were sold, contract of sale was made. But since the conditions were not fulfilled properly, therefore, she can return the goods and terminate the contract. Very good, Srishti Pandey, Aisha Sood, all those who have sent the correct answers for the previous one. Irudhya, correct. Okay, now I'm waiting the answer for this one. Yes, Ashutosh, it was there again, risk prima facie question. So that's why we are discussing it right now also. Meghna Chauhan has a question for us. If goods are with the seller and property is transferred, but due to seller's fault, goods are destroyed, then seller is liable. Definitely. Even if the property is transferred, if the property is transferred and seller is at fault, so whosoever the party is at fault will be held liable for the loss. Ayushi Jan, risk prima facie passing with the property. We'll read each and every line and too many examples from the study material as well after doing these questions. Okay. So we will do it immediately after these questions also. So question number 3, immediately is the correct answer. Abhish Chaudhary, you are wrong. Ayushi is right. Ashutosh, Shiriyas, Shakil, Akshay Kumar, Nidhi, Ishita, Sirigovri, Aisha, Akshay, Gufran, Tina, all of you are correct, children. In case of specific goods are sold, the property in the goods passes to the buyer immediately. Section 19, 20, 21, 22, we have already done. It is from that. A sells 10 bags of sugar to B and the goods were in deliverable state. If goods get destroyed, who will bear the loss? A sells 10 bags of sugar to B and the goods were in deliverable state. Who will bear the loss? Question number 4, you have to answer me now. Who will bear the loss in this very case? Buyer is liable, seller is liable, somebody is saying buyer is liable, somebody is saying seller is liable. Why so much confusion, children? Aryan Kumar, Bharat, Tina, Manish, all of them are saying that buyer will be liable. Manish is saying seller is liable. Nidhi is saying buyer is liable. Now listen carefully. When there are sale of specific goods and the goods have been put in deliverable state, once you have informed the buyer about the same, the property in the goods is transferred. So in this very case, the putting of the terminology, the goods are in deliverable state, means we are assuming that the seller has informed the buyer B, and now if anything happens, buyer B will be liable for the loss. Why, ma'am? Because property is set to pass in case the goods are in deliverable state. Remember this question? Remember this example that we have done for specific goods and certain goods? The rule is if the goods are in deliverable state, the sale happens if the contract is made irrespective of time of delivery. Once the deliverable state has, remember this past the filling of the oils in these casks. So I told you once we have put the oil in the cask and the seller has informed the buyer that all your packing polishing is done, the goods are in deliverable state, property passes to the buyer immediately. Property of the goods passes to the buyer immediately when such things are done. Therefore, now if the goods get destroyed, buyer will be held liable. All those who are facing problem in that MCQ, you can refer to this particular slide and understand it later on. Okay, in the same example, if the goods are yet to be identified out of the lot and to be packed, then who shall be liable to bear the risk of loss? In this same example, A is selling 10 bags of sugar, but if the goods are yet to be identified out of the lot and to be packed, then who shall be liable for the risk of loss? In the previous one, all those who have said buyer is liable was the correct answer. Miss Siri, yes, you are saying goods were only in deliverable, not yet delivered. So once it is in deliverable state and the buyer is informed about the same, the property in the goods passes to the buyer. Yes, Abhishek, that's correct. So Ritu Tiwari, we assumed in that very case that the buyer has informed the seller. The seller has informed the buyer that the goods are in deliverable state. In fifth A, all of you are correct. Yes, ma'am. Seller is liable. So मुझे पता था ये सबको आता है. सबने ठीक दिया. Yes, all of you. Samina, Gufran, Aishwarya, Ishita, Puranjay Singh, Pramod, Srishti, Aisha, Shweta, Tamanna, Sirigobri, Khushi, Ayushi, Mehak, Ashutosh, all of you are correct. Seller is responsible. Why? Because these are uncertain goods till the time they have not packed from the lot. They are lying together in bulk. They are uncertain. Now, if the goods get destroyed, seller is going to be held liable. Appropriation of the goods. I think, children, let's take a small break over here and then we will continue. Let's take a small break here. All right, welcome back, students. So your previous answers were all correct. I have seen that. So great. Now let's start completing the unit 3 first from the study material. And then we will go back to the MCQs and complete it from the presentation. So we have already done goods sent on approval and return basis. We have discussed the 3 cases. When does section 24 gets complete? When you have signified your approval, or you have failed to give your approval and the time has lapsed, or the person has done something which is equivalent to accepting the goods, like he's pledging the goods further or he's selling the goods. And once he does that, he will be considered as the owner of the goods and the property in the goods is said to be transferred. Remember the musical instrument example that also we have discussed. Example number 6 we have discussed in the last class. Now we will be doing examples 7 and 8, which are marked to be marked. Very, very important. A buyer under contract of sale or return is deemed to have exercised or does any act showing an unequivocal intention to buy. For example, when he's pledging the goods with third party. Failure or inability to return does not mean selection to buy. So if you have not been able to return the goods, doesn't mean that you have been able to buy the goods. So sale on return basis has to be seen very, very carefully. Ownership is transferred when we have decided to purchase the product, like in that musical instrument where he has done the performance somewhere. He has done the performance, he has performed in the in an event. So it was considered the ownership is transferred. Even if you are pledging the goods with a third party, it will be considered as if you have accepted the goods. So let us read example number 7. A delivered some jewelry to B on sale or return basis. So sale or return means on goods sent on approval or return basis. If you like the jewelry, you keep it, or if you don't like it, you return it. B pledged the jewelry with C. Now what is B doing? B is pledging the jewelry further with C. So B is basically satisfying the clause, third clause of that section 24. That doing something, remember, if it does something which is equivalent to accepting the goods, for example, pledging the goods. So if any of these things are done, it will be considered that the property in the goods is passed to the buyer. So here this Mr. B, instead of telling Mr. A whether I've liked the goods or not, or I'm going to accept them, he's further pledging it with Mr. C. So once he has pledged the goods, it will be considered that the ownership has been transferred to B because he has adopted the transaction. He has satisfied the third category of section 24 by saying that I have pledged the goods with Mr. C. And now A has no right against C. What will this innocent A do? ए को तो नुकसान हो गया, उसको तो ज्वेलरी उसने बेची थी और पैसा मिला नहीं, बी ने जाकर उसको सी को प्लेज कर दिया. A cannot recover the jewelry, but A can recover the price of the jewelry from Mr. B. Now this Mr. A will go to Mr. B. He will say, hello, you have satisfied the third condition of section 24. That means you have become the owner. Since you have transferred the property further, pay me the amount for my jewelry. He can ask for the payment, but he will not recover the goods because ownership has been transferred further from B to C. B has now become the owner. He has pledged the goods further with Mr. C. Mr. C is having the pledgee's rights on it. Therefore, only the prize money can be recovered from Mr. B. Similarly, example number 8, A sends to B a motor car on approval or return basis. B was to be returned it after a trial in August, but he did not return within the reasonable time. Therefore, A is not bound to accept it and the price needs to be paid. Once you have satisfied any of the 3 conditions, either time has lapsed or you have signified your assent or you have pledged the goods further, you have to make the payment for those goods. Ownership is said to be transferred, then you become the owner, you have to pay for the goods. The seller is not going to take back the goods now. So if you have played the musical instrument, I will not take the guitar back, pay me the price. If you have pledged my jewelry further with Mr. C, I will not take the jewelry back, pay me my price. If you have not returned this motor car water motor within a week's time, within the August 2020, where we have decided time has lapsed, you have not returned it. Now I will not take the goods back. I only want the price. क्लियर हो गया? एग्जाम्पल 7 और 8 को ध्यान से समझ लिया, याद रख लिया, क्योंकि अभी एग्जाम्पल 7 थोड़ा सा चेंज हो जाएगा when we go to example 9. So be very careful, understand example 7. 3 condition on sale on approval and return basis. Anyone is satisfied, buyer becomes the owner. You can write it down. Any of these 3 conditions of section 24 is satisfied. If any of these 3 conditions of section 24 is satisfied, then buyer becomes the owner. Then buyer becomes the owner. And he should pay for the goods. And he will pay for the goods. Now, sale for cash only or return. Very, very important. अभी हमने जो ऊपर करा था section 24, we read sale on approval or return. Means either you approve it or you return it. Sale for cash or return is very important, children. It says here there is a condition that till the payment is not made, buyer will not become the owner. Here the condition is for cash payment. Either you pay the cash or return the goods. Where the goods have been delivered by a person on sale or return basis on such terms, I have sent you on sale and approval, but I have included the term that the goods will remain the property of the seller till the payment is made. Here the property will not pass to the buyer until cash is paid for. So A sent the goods to Mr. B on sale or return basis, and the property will pass to Mr. B only when you pay 10,000 rupees to Mr. A. Now B paid 10,000 rupees to A. Property will become of Mr. B. Now Mr. B do whatever he want to do with these goods, because then Mr. B becomes the owner. But before making the payment, if B pledges the goods with C further, he cannot do so. He is not allowed to do so. Seller will come and take back his goods. He will not let you give the goods to anybody because he is the owner. Example देखते हैं. A delivered his jewelry to B on sale for cash only or return basis. It was expressly provided in the contract that the jewelry shall remain A's property until the price is paid. Now it is expressly, clearly written in the contract that the jewelry will be A's property, means A will remain the owner till the price is paid. Before the payment of price, now before the payment of price means he has not yet become the owner and he has pledged the jewelry further with Mr. C. Can it happen? You're not the owner. How can you pledge someone else's jewelry? At the time of pledge, the ownership was not transferred. Therefore, pledge was not valid and A can recover the jewelry back from Mr. C. A has full right. Why? Because A is the owner. Here, why he could not recover? He has no right. Why he can only recover the prize money? Why? Because B was the owner. In example number 7, when B has pledged the goods further, he has satisfied the third condition of section 24. B has become the owner. He can pledge the goods, whatever he wants, but he should pay the prize money to Mr. A because paisa to dena padega. But here, in this case, ownership was not transferred because cash was the condition. Therefore, A was the owner. He will directly take his goods back. Usko nahi chahiye paise वगैरह, वो कहेगा मेरे goods वापस करो. A could recover the jewelry back from Mr. C. He will say, I have not received my payment. Now I don't want my payment. I want my goods back because I am the owner. I can do whatever I want with my goods. Here you have lost the ownership because he has pledged the goods further. Clear हो गया? Example 7 and example 9. Everyone is now clear. Okay. Let's move ahead. Reservation of right of disposal, section 25 is already done. Children, please mark these points of example 7 and 9, very important, and write down the notes that I've told you right now. Okay, you have to write down the notes. Very good, Ashutosh, where you said sale. Ashutosh is saying, ma'am, sales for cash on return in Hindi. Okay. सो हिंदी में सेल फॉर कैश ऑन रिटर्न बेसिस का मतलब होता है कि अगर आशुतोष मैंने आपको गुड्स भेजे हैं तो मैंने आपको बोला है कि या तो आप इनको अप्रूव कर देना या इनको वापस कर देना, बट मैंने ये कंडीशन लगा दी कि आप तभी ओनर बनोगे जब आप मुझे कैश पे करो। मैंने आपको ये कंडीशन लगा दी कि प्रॉपर्टी सेलर की रहेगी, ये मेरी ओनरशिप रहेगी जब तक आप मुझे कैश नहीं पे कर। अब अगर आपने मुझे कैश नहीं पे करा और मेरे गुड्स आगे दे दिए, किसी और को प्लेज कर दिए या सेल कर दिए, आई एम दी ओनर एज अ सेलर, आई कैन गो एंड टेक बैक माई गुड्स। मैं अपने गुड्स आपसे वापस ले सकती हूँ। समझ आ गया? ओके. Niklesh is saying if the seller said to use the product and it didn't like it will come. Yes, it will come under goods sent on approval. Mr. Manish Jain, ma'am, during delivery of goods, if goods are destroyed, then the courier man is liable to bear the loss because it is his responsibility. Mr. Manish Jain, it depends from case to case. You simply have to see the property in the goods was passed or not. If the specific goods, I've put them in deliverable state, I've informed the buyer is responsible. Passing of risk with the property, section 26, buyer was to come and pick the goods, he made a default, he made a delay, buyer is responsible. I am the seller, I was to transfer the goods, I made a delay, I was at default, I will be responsible. Each case has to be analyzed very carefully. But where you're talking about the transporter, section 23 subsection 2 has to be seen. Once the goods have been given to the buyer's agent for transferring, without reserving the right to disposal, buyer becomes responsible. Or that agent who is taking the goods, he has to take care of the goods. But section 25, where I'm reserving the right, I am clearly saying that there's a contract for the sale and the goods are appropriated. Seller may reserve the right and impose certain conditions that only if you fulfill such conditions, then only the goods becomes yours. Then seller remains responsible. Clear ho gaya? Okay. Yes, Meghna, in that very case, seller will be held liable. Ritu Tiwari, I hope 7th example is now clear. You're asking me to explain it again. I hope now it's clear. Example is right in exam, ma'am. Yes, Akshay Kumar, you must give examples in the exam also. That is very important. Yes, Meghna, if the goods get destroyed, they were lying with the seller, property is not transferred, 100% seller will be liable. Abhishek and Purva, okay. Thank you, Mr. Ashutosh Pani. I'm glad you are enjoying the class. Good. Okay, Ritu, thank you so much. Right to disposal, Abhishek, we'll do it once again. We have to do the examples. Purva, you will understand when we do the examples. Aditi Salvi is asking in example 9, what if A wants to recover only the payment? So how can you say that he wants to recover the payment? Now you have pledged my goods further. This pledge was only not valid, child. See, it says the ownership was not transferred and this Mr. B is pledging my goods further. How can you trust him and recover the payment? You will simply go and collect your goods only back because there was a condition of cash to be paid. That condition is not fulfilled. A, as a seller, has full rights on the goods. He will go and take his goods back. Here, you are not just recovering the payment. You will only take your goods back. Now let us come to the analysis of right to disposal. You can leave the subsections and subsection 1, 2 and 3. आप ये छोड़ सकते हो, इसको पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप सीधा analysis of section 25 पे आ सकते हो. This tells you about the right of disposal to secure that the price is paid before the property is passed. Now अब यहाँ पे मैंने अपने आप को secure कर लिया कि मेरा payment भाई पहले दे देना, इससे पहले कि आप owner बनो, pay me my price. Where there is a contract for the sale of specific goods or where the goods have been appropriated, seller may reserve the right to dispose until the conditions are fulfilled. In such a case, the goods have been delivered to the buyer or courier for transmitting. Property will not pass until the condition imposed is fulfilled. And this, children, condition is generally the cash to be paid for. Either I have drawn a bill of exchange So अगर कोई आपको चेक से पेमेंट कर रहा है या बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज से पेमेंट कर रहा है, so you will definitely be worried that this bill should not get dishonor. This check will not get dishonor. For example, A sold the goods to Mr. B for rupees 1 lakh. And B ने कहा यार ये बहुत मोटी अमाउंट है, I don't have cash, I will give you a check. And the goods were to be transported from Delhi to Pune. So A got the goods loaded in the truck and he told the truck driver, look, you're taking the goods to Pune, but please let this check get cleared, then only you transfer the goods to Mr. B. Why? Because it can happen that Mr. A goes to the bank tomorrow and the check gets dishonored and payment in aayi. So 1 lakh is a huge amount. If I don't get the payment, I will lose my goods also. So in certain conditions like these, where huge payments are involved or where the payments are being made by check or bill of exchange, there the seller reserves his right of disposal, means he has a right to tell the truck driver that you can bring the goods back, I only remain the owner. Here I'm specifically using the right in the contract that I'm reserving the right to dispose the goods until the conditions are fulfilled. So until your check payments get clear, you will not become the owner. So X sends furniture to a company by truck, instructs the driver not to deliver until the payment is made. Here, only when the payment is made, the property passes to the company. So which are the circumstances? Number one, I told you, where the seller draws a bill on the buyer and sends in the bill of exchange or any check payment, there you can use this condition. Or if the goods are shipped or delivered to a railway administration, seller will be prima facie deemed to have reserved the right to disposal. So it says where I'm sending the goods by a ship, or I'm using a document of title to goods and the goods are being delivered by bill of lading or railway receipt, here the goods will be given to the buyer only at the order of the seller. So seller has prima facie, means apparently he has reserved the right to disposal. So in two cases, you reserve the right to disposal. Number one, when the payment is being made by bill of exchange or check, or when the goods are being transported by using document of title to goods. So when I'm transporting the goods by using document, if the goods are shipped or railway authority, the goods are taking, remember document of title to goods. If I've loaded the goods in the ship and bill of lading has been signed, then the goods remain the seller's property. Seller has reserved the right of disposal because it is such a huge goods which are coming via ship. Tomorrow, if you don't make my payment, I will take the ship back. I will take my goods back. If he wrongfully retains the bill of lading, property does not pass to him. So if you try to do any cheating or you retain that bill of lading, then also the property will not passes unless the seller has given the instructions. Why? Because seller remains the owner in section 25. So section 25 deals with the conditional appropriation of goods. Here condition of cash is imposed. And section 23 subsection 2 is unconditional appropriation, where I have not imposed any condition. I have straight away given the goods to you. All right. Clear. Risk prima facie passes with the property. So we discussed that risk passes with the ownership. The owner of the good will bear the loss or damage unless otherwise agreed, means अगर हमने कुछ और agree करा है तो वो follow. Unless otherwise agreed is a very interesting term which is used in law, children. If you and me have agreed, have made an agreement or a contract, then that contract will be valid. We don't have to read what is written over here. So if we have not agreed, unless or otherwise means if we were silent, we have not made any agreement regarding the passing of the risk, then whosoever is the owner of the goods, will bear the loss or damage. So if the seller is the owner, seller will bear the risk. If the buyer is the owner, buyer will bear the risk. Example number 11 is again very, very interesting. I told you we have too many examples to be covered from the study today. A bids for an antique painting at a sale by auction. Now, what is auction sale? Have you heard about this Hindi word nilami? कहते हैं ना किसी की चीज बेचना, नीलामी में सेल करना. बहुत सारा किसी का प्रॉपर्टी का सामान बचा था तो उन्होंने बोला कि we'll just put it on auction sale. So auction sale means where people come and make different prices. They raise different prices for that particular goods, and whatever the highest price is fixed, the auctioneer fixed the deals at that price. And how the price is fixed? By the fall of hammer. So he will do like this, जैसे हम कोर्ट में करते हैं ना, ऑर्डर ऑर्डर, ऐसी वो ऑक्शन सेल में ऐसे ठक करके करेगा, हैमर फॉल करेगा, तो उससे आपका प्राइस फिक्स हो जाता है एंड द डील इज मेड, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज कंप्लीट. So a bid for an antique painting. There was a beautiful antique painting and it was getting sold at an auction sale. After the bid, auctioneer struck his hammer to signify his acceptance. So auctioneer was about to do like this. Okay, fine. Yes. But instead of just hitting the table, he hit the antique which gets damaged. Who will bear the loss? Seller or buyer? You have to tell me. Who shall bear the loss in this case? Nidhi Yadav, that means you did not pay attention. She's asking example 7 and 9 are same, how the answer is different. I have explained you how the answers are different. Once is the case of sale on approval and return basis, example 7. Example 9 typically talks about cash payment. If the cash is not paid, ownership will not get transferred. Therefore, the seller has the right to take back the goods from the buyer. Yes, Abhishek, and right to disposal conditions are attached. Very good. That is correct. It's a conditional appropriation. Ayushi Botra is saying, thanks for getting time and explaining everything easy. Everything is crystal clear. Thank you so much, Ayushi. I'm glad. Yes, Pramod K, you can take the understanding of auction from that as well. Seller will be responsible. Excellent. Everyone has sent the correct answer, ma'am. Seller will be responsible. Why? Because the ownership has yet not been transferred. You have broken the property by mistake. Ownership was still with the seller. Therefore, seller will be held liable in this case. Now, there are two qualification, means there are two exceptions. We have discussed the exceptions also. If there is any delay in the part of the parties, then that party who is making a default will be liable and you should take care as the bailee of the goods. Example number 12. A contracted to sell 100 bales of cotton to B to be delivered in February. B took the delivery of the part of the cotton but made a default in accepting the remaining bales. कौन डिफॉल्ट कर रहा है? बी, बायर डिफॉल्ट करता है. Consequently, cotton became unfit. The loss will be borne by the buyer. Why? Because it is your fault. I told you that please come and collect your goods in February. Cotton gets spoiled if you don't take it on time. Now it has become unfit. Therefore, the loss will be borne by the buyer. It has to be seen that the general rule will not affect the duties and liabilities of buyer and seller as a bailee, even though the risk has passed, which means seller A should take care of these 100 bales of cotton. It doesn't mean that आप जानबूझकर 100 bales of cotton बाहर sun में रखोगे या पानी में डाल दोगे या you'll keep it under rain. You will not do this. As a bailee, you will just take care of the goods. But if goods only become unfit, then it is not your fault. Buyer will have to bear the loss. The liability to bear the loss in case the property is destroyed, damaged, or deteriorated passes with ownership. Parties may agree to the contrary, means they may decide something else. Parties may agree that the risk will pass sometime before or after the property was passed from the seller. I told you, whatever you decide as a buyer and seller, that is separate story. अगर आपने ही as a buyer and seller कुछ और decide कर लिया, आपका फैसला कुछ और है, फिर जो आपने decide करा है वो follow करेंगे, हम फिर section 26 में नहीं जाएंगे. So section 26 give you the liability that parties, give you the liberty that parties may agree to the contrary. You may decide that you want to pass the risk later on or whatever way you want to do it. And children, all those who have been asking me all these questions, ma'am, अगर कोरियर वाले से गलती हो गई है, अगर ट्रांसपोर्टर ने गलती कर दी है, लॉ में ना एक सिंपल सी स्टेटमेंट होती है, एक आप वर्ड लिख सकते हो, आई assume that the property was not transferred. अगर आपको किसी केस में बिल्कुल ही समझ ना आए, अभी मैंने आपको बता दिया रिस्क किसके पास है, whosoever is the owner of the goods will bear the risk. So the moment you get confused, section 24, 25, 26 is now clear. You know when the property is with the seller, with the property is with the buyer. But wherever you get confused, just see who is the owner. So you can say that if I assume seller is the owner, property was not yet passed, seller will only remain liable. If I assume the ownership has been transferred, the property was transferred to the buyer, buyer has become the owner, buyer will bear the risk. Whosoever is the owner has to be seen in order to make liable for the loss. Now this is the topic which we'll be covering today as well, section 27 to 30, but let me just take you in the presentation because we were completing few MCQs first. So wear your thinking caps and answer me. Appropriation of goods means separating the goods from lot, packing the goods, delivery of goods to the carrier for transmission to the buyer without reserving the right of disposal, or all of the above. What is the meaning of appropriation of goods? Mr. Bharat Chaudhary is saying in that case, buyer will bear the loss because fall of hammer ownership is transferred. But child, ownership would have been got transferred if the hammer has fallen down. But we have not done the fall of hammer. By fall of hammer only, at that very instant only, he break the painting. So here the auctioneer, the seller's person, will be held liable. Yes, Ms. Tanmeer Kaur, you cannot hold them responsible for such kind of losses. Nobody will, as a bailee, you have to take care of the goods. Mrs. Farheen is correct. Aditi, Bharat, Tanmeet, Meghna, Aryan, Srishti, Ashutosh, Niklesh, Ayushi, all of you are correct, children. Send me the answers immediately. Aditi Salvi, A is the incorrect option. Ayushi, Nikita, Purva, Gufran, Bharat, Harshita, Ritu. Why are you saying A, children? Somebody is saying only A. The correct answer is 6. D is the correct answer. You forgot section 23. Appropriating of goods means unascertain goods to be separated and made ascertain, packing the goods and delivering the goods without reserving the right. Section 23, subsection 2. So appropriation of goods means, and these both points are section 23, subsection 1. So all the points read together are known as appropriation of goods, means separating the goods from the lot, packing the goods and giving the goods to the courier for transmitting it to the buyer. All right, so all those who have sent 6D is the correct answer. Erudhya and Punjabi SF, D is the correct answer. Surya Kumari is correct, Nikita is correct, Samina is correct. Nikita is correct, okay. Let's go to another question. When the seller reserves the right to disposal of the goods, ownership still remains with the seller. Is it true or is it false, children? Question number 7. Question number 7. What is the answer, true or false? Surya Kumari, good. Aryan, good. Aryan Kumar, why are you imposing a condition? There is no condition in this one. Kavya, Nikhilesh, you were correct. Very good. Everyone is correct. So true is the correct answer in this one. Why? Because the ownership remains with the seller until whenever he has reserved the right to disposal. All right. Now let's start a new topic. That is the last topic, the second last topic of this unit. Transfer of title to the goods. So what is the meaning of title? Section 26. Now all my students knows title means ownership. So before we start this topic, you have to answer me one question. You went to a grocery store today and you were standing there and you really liked 5-6 different kind of packets of biscuits that have come up in the market. And you just picked up those biscuits packets and you started selling them. Can you do that? Can you just jump into any departmental store and start selling their goods? We cannot do that, right? We all know. Why we cannot do that? It will be either considered as theft. अगर हम चुरा कर रहे हैं तो हम तो चोरी कर रहे हैं तो बिल्कुल ही गलत है, वो नहीं कर सकते. So we cannot do that. Good. Purana Ajay is saying, no ma'am, we cannot do that. Good. Why we cannot do that? Okay, one is theft, we cannot do that. Other reason, what is the other reason why we can't do that? Ma'am, because we are not the owner of those goods. वो तो अंकल है, शॉपकीपर अंकल जो ओनर है उस गुड्स के, जो बिस्किट्स बेच रहे हैं. हम थोड़ी ना ओनर है, तो हम कैसे बेच सकते हैं उनका सामान? So write down a line. If you are not the owner of a goods, you cannot sell the goods. If you are not the owner of the goods, you cannot sell the goods. So where the goods are sold by a person who is not the owner and does not have the authority or consent of the owner, buyer will not get a good title. अगर आपने फिर भी जाकर शॉपकीपर की दुकान में खड़े हुए और बिस्किट्स के पैकेट्स उठाए और दूसरों को बेच दिए, buyer will not get the good title, means it will be considered as theft. ऐसा कहा जाएगा कि किसी ने चोरी करी है वहां पर. Why? Because you are not the owner. So if you are not the owner, because the condition as to title will be breached. Yes, Srishti, excellent. Yes, Aisha Sood, because we are not the owners. Very good, children. So unless and until you're not the owner, you cannot transfer a good title also. You cannot make the other person also the owner, because you yourself are not the owner of the goods. Sale by a person who is not the owner is covered under transfer of title. So today I'm going to teach you 7 different ways in which, even if you're not the owner, you can sell the goods. So we have understood the general rule that if you're not the owner, अभी हमने अंकल की शॉप में गए और गुड्स बेचने की कोशिश करी तो हमारे ऊपर चोरी का इल्जाम लगा दिया. हरलीन मैम ने तो बोल दिया कि आप थेफ्ट कर रहे हो, ये तो गलत है, ये तो नहीं कर सकते. तो हमने समझ लिया कि if we are not the owner, we cannot sell the goods. But today I'm going to tell you what are the cases, exceptions. Whenever law makes a general rule, it always gives you certain exceptions just to protect the innocent buyers. उसकी थोड़ी ना गलती है बेचारे ने, जिसने आकर बिस्किट खरीदे, गलती तो आपकी है जो आपने झूठ बोलकर बेचा उसको थेफ्ट कर कर. तो लॉ बोला कि ऐसे तो बड़े इनोसेंट बायर्स हैं जिनके पास, जैसे वो ये रिमेंबर ट्रैक्टर हमने सोल्ड करा था, कंडीशन एज टू टाइटल वाज ब्रीच्ड and you just came as a true owner and you took the tractor back from that buyer. Was the buyer at mistake? He was an innocent buyer. उसको थोड़ी ना पता था कि वो चोरी का है या फिर the seller is not the owner. So government thought that many innocent buyers are suffering because of this. So that's why they made a rule. That general rule is that owner can only sell the goods. If you're not the owner, you cannot sell the goods. But 7 exceptions are the cases which give right to people like, for example, an agent. You must have seen so many agents, authorized dealers who deal in the goods. They are not the owner of the goods, but still they have the authority to sell the goods. So 7 are the cases in which even if you're not the whole sole owner of the goods, you can still sell the goods and the buyer will get a good title. So this rule is based on the Latin maxim, that is a Latin word, nemo dat quod non habet. Nemo dat quod non habet means no one can give what he has not got. So if I have not got the title, I am myself not the owner, how can I pass that ownership to another person? So general rule is that unless and until you're not the owner of the goods, you cannot pass the ownership to another buyer. But there are certain exceptions to this rule. We'll try to cover the first 2 to 3 exceptions today, but I will give you a general overview of all the exceptions. Sale by mercantile agent. Who is a mercantile agent, children? A person who has been authorized by the owner of the goods to sell the goods on his behalf. So I have purchased this OnePlus mobile phone. So the owner of OnePlus is not sitting over here. There are different mobile agents. There are different authorized dealers of OnePlus. I'll go to the shop and I'll try to purchase my mobile phone from one of the dealers. Now, when you go and purchase your mobile phone, do you ask the person that, are you the owner of this mobile shop? You'll simply check the certificate is hanging over there that this particular person is the authorized dealer, authorized agent of this OnePlus or Samsung or LG, whatever is the brand. So if you're an agent of the seller, law says in that very case, if you're doing any ordinary course of business, you're selling the goods of the true owner, then also the buyer will get a good title, even if you're not the owner of the goods. But there are certain conditions which we need to see in this very case. Once we go in the study material, we'll see what all conditions needs to be fulfilled. Second is the case of sale by one of the joint owners. So A, B and C are jointly owning a laptop. So we are the joint owners of a laptop, and Mr. C decided to sell this laptop to Mr. D. So Mr. D thought C is the only owner of the good. But although he was only having 20% right on this laptop, still Mr. C has the right of selling these goods because he's part of the joint owners. Even if you're joint owners of a property, you can sell the goods to a innocent buyer who gets a good title. Sale by a person in possession under voidable contract. Now, before this, you have to answer me, what is the meaning of voidable contract? When does the contract becomes voidable? Children, remember the 5 points where the consent of the person is not free? I think I asked you earlier also, or I did not ask you. What are the 5 cases in which your consent is not said to be free? Harshita V, that's great. Yes, we do not have the ownership. That's the correct answer. Children, now you have to tell me, when does the contract becomes voidable? I'm waiting for your answer. When does the contract be? Very good, Pramod K. Free consent, misrepresentation, fraud. Wrong. Only misrepresentation and fraud? When the consent is which is impossible to happen, Nidhi says. Okay. So Pramod K, you have only answered 2 correct. That is misrepresentation and fraud. What about other 3? Voidable contract when the consent is not free in case of coercion, undue influence, mistake, fraud, and misrepresentation. Narayan Kumar, that's correct. Surya is correct. Meghna is correct. Very nice, children. Is it the network that's taking time for your answers to reach to me? All right, that's correct. All right, all of you have written correctly. So you all know when does the contract becomes voidable. Contract becomes voidable means at the option of the person who has not liked the contract, whose consent was so obtained, has either the right to put an end to the contract, or he can drag the person to the court. Whatever he wants, he can take an action. But till the time the contract is operational, till the time he has not terminated this contract, if that person who has taken the contract at a gunshot, say for example, let's take your example, Miss Aditi Salvi. Okay. So Miss Aditi Salvi was driving a car and I went to her and at a gunshot, I asked Aditi, give me your car. Now, obviously, Aditi got scared because I'll shoot her if she not give me the car, and she quickly gave the car keys to me. Now, this kind of contract where the consent was not free, it was obtained under coercion, the contract is voidable at the option of Aditi. She can either terminate the contract or put to end immediately, or can keep it continuing and later on recover the damages. This is what happens when the contract is voidable. Now, till the time she has not terminated the contract, I further sold the car to Ayushi Jain. So I picked it for fraud from Aditi and then I further sold it to Ayushi Jain. So children, will Ayushi Jain get a valid title? If she has purchased the car in good faith, law says there is no mistake of Ayushi. She has taken the car, sale has happened by person in possession under voidable contract. Okay, that's fine. Voidable contract may Harleen ma'am did something wrong with Aditi. That is not good. So Aditi will definitely take action against Harleen ma'am because the contract was held by coercion. But if I have made the further sale to Miss Ayushi Jain, is it valid sale? Yes or no? It will be 100% valid sale. Why? Because Section 27 to 30 specifically talks about the cases where the non-owners can sell the goods. So this is the case where one of the person who has obtained the goods under voidable contract, law has given him the right that you can sell the goods further to a person who is purchasing the goods in good faith and he's having a trust on you. All right, good. Yes, Mehak Roy, that's good. Farheen, Ishwarya, all of you, those who have sent the correct answer for undue influence, that's correct. All right. So, yes, it's a valid sale. Mrs. Ayesha Tasneem, that's correct. It will be a valid sale. Why? Because the person who has purchased the goods from you under a possession under voidable contract is an innocent buyer. He doesn't know what is the history, geography of this car, how you have become the owner of the car. He will not ask you. But if you are the owner of the car under voidable contract, you can make the sale further. Sale by a person who has already sold the goods but continues the possession, the fourth category of the goods. So a person has already sold the goods, but he's continuing the possession of goods. Now what happened? There was Mr. A, the seller. He has filled his 100 bags of sugar and he has sold it to Mr. B. But Mr. B was traveling and he said that I will pick up my goods when I come back from Delhi. And the goods which have been sold were already lying in the godown of Mr. A. A buyer, Mr. C, a new buyer, Mr. C, comes to Mr. A's shop and he says that this buyer was paying 500 for per bag. I will pay you 600 rupees per bag. Why don't you sell these 100 bags of sugar to me? Will you get tempted? Somebody is paying you 100 per bag more. So this Mr. A fell into trap and he said, okay, fine. This is more profitable transaction for me. And he sold these goods from A, sold these goods to Mr. C. Can Mr. A sell the goods to Mr. C? Yes or no, and why? Swatigiri, I want you to answer me for this one. Yes, Nidhi, that's correct. Yes. Person has already sold the goods but continues. Can Mr. A sell the goods to Mr. C? The goods were already sold to Mr. B, children, and now here I'm getting a higher profitable term. Instead of 500, I'm getting the goods for 600 per bag. Can I do so? Okay, Niklesh says no, he cannot transfer the goods because the ownership has been transferred. All right, that's good. Nice point. But I will say A can still sell the goods to C. Why? Okay, Ritu says yes, ma'am, he can sell. What about others? I think there is a huge network error today, children. I don't know whether with what side because I'm not getting your answers immediately. Tamanna says yes, he can sell. Harshita says cannot. Tanmeet says he cannot. Aryan says yes. Pranajay says no. So there are mixed answers, yes and no, both. So what is the correct answer? Yes, ma'am, he can sell the goods. Why he can sell the goods? You all are right, children. Ownership was already given to Mr. B, but still a person who continues the possession of goods. I told you the goods are still lying in A's godown. He's still holding the goods. So law has given you the right as an owner, if you're the owner of the goods, even if the property in the goods is transferred, even if the ownership has been transferred, then also if you have the possession of the goods, if the goods are still in your godown, if you still hold the goods, you can sell it to a new buyer if the new buyer is buying it without the knowledge of the previous transaction. This Mr. C doesn't know that the goods were already sold to Mr. B. He was an innocent buyer. Therefore, A will be held guilty or liable later on, but C will not be held liable. This sale is a valid sale. All right. All right. And there are another 8 exceptions. Let's go to the study material and do the exceptions one by one from there. So analysis you have to read. You can leave this paragraph. You'll simply read the analysis. The general rule is that you cannot transfer the goods unless and until you have the title to the goods. Example number 13. A sells the stolen goods to B, who buys them in good faith. So I told you, if I'm stealing the goods and I'm selling it, B will not get any title, means you are not the true owner. Breach of implied condition as to title has happened. So example number 13, you can say implied condition as to title is breached. Therefore, true owner will come and he will take his goods back. Why? Because only the owner has the right to sell the goods. P, the hirer of vehicle. Now, example number 14 is very, very important. Many a times children ask the query later on. So better pay attention right now so that you don't have to ask me later on. P, the hirer of vehicle under a hire purchase agreement sells them to Q. अब P कौन है बच्चा? Here we are talking about hire purchase agreement. I just now told you that only if you're the owner of the goods, you can sell the goods. Under hire purchase, do you become the owner of the goods or you simply become the hirer? You simply become the hirer. You're paying the hire charges. You're paying the rental amounts. Only after the payment of last installment, you become the owner. But here he has not paid the full installments and he sells the goods to Mr. Q. Q, a bona fide purchaser, does not acquire the ownership. Why does not he acquire the ownership? Why? Because P himself is not the owner of the goods. So if you are not the owner of the goods, how can you transfer the ownership to another person? So both the cases, example number 13, if you're a thief, you have stolen someone's good, you cannot sell them further. Example number 14, you have just taken the goods and hire purchase. You are a hirer only. You are paying rentals or hire charges for the goods. You're still not the owner, so you cannot sell the goods for. Q will only become as a hirer. He acquires the same right as that of the hirer. So Q now, instead of P, Q will start paying the hire purchase installments to the person from whom the goods were taken. So if this rule is enforced rigidly, innocent buyers will be put to loss. So to protect the interest of innocent buyer, the exceptions has been given. So if everybody try to take this rule seriously that only the owners can sell the goods, all those people who are buying the goods in good faith will come at loss. So these basic rules were made. Let us do the first rule, that is sale by mercantile agent. Sale by a mercantile agent for documents to title would pass a good title to the buyer only in the following cases. Now, who is a mercantile agent? So I am working in Delhi and I want to open up a store in Rajasthan, and I thought that it will be very difficult to do to and fro and to travel every weekends. So I appointed Mr. P to work and open a store for me in Rajasthan. Now this Mr. P is selling mobile phones and doing business on behalf of my company. I'm into Reliance and I've appointed an agent who deals in my for example, I'm the owner of Samsung and I can't be at different places. And when you go to the shops, you see authorized dealers who have been appointed. So I appointed Mr. P as an authorized dealer on my behalf to do the business in Rajasthan. Now Mr. P is selling the mobile phones over there and he's doing the sale and purchase of goods. Do you think the buyer who is coming to buy the goods will not get a good title? Definitely they will get a good title. Why? Because number one, Mr. P is in possession of the goods with my consent. Has P done any theft? Has he stolen the goods? No, ma'am. He is an authorized dealer. He is an authorized agent. He has taken the goods from you in the ordinary course of business. Whatever sale he is doing it in the ordinary course of business as a mercantile agent. This buyer who has come to his shop, he is acting in good faith, means he is trusting Mr. P as an owner and has no notice of the fact that seller had no authority to sell. Now, this provision to section 27 is very interesting. Even if I don't have the authorization, Mr. P doesn't have the authorization. If I've cancelled his authorization, he's still not the dealer. But this buyer, Mr. Q, who is buying the goods, he is assuming that Mr. P is the real owner of the goods and he does not know that he has no authority to sell. He doesn't know that he's not the owner, he's only an agent. He's assuming him to be the owner of the goods. If all these conditions are satisfied, then whatever goods are sold from Mr. P, mercantile agent, to Mr. Q, it will be considered as a valid sale. Understood, children? So sale by a mercantile agent, if any title is being passed, if any mercantile agent is selling the goods further to a buyer, you have to remember these 3 points. If he is in possession of the goods, owner has given him the right, he has become mercantile agent only with the consent of the owner. He's doing the sale in the ordinary course of business. It is his business to deal in such kind of goods, and the buyer is acting in good faith. If all these conditions are satisfied, then the buyer will get a good title to the goods, means the ownership can be transferred by the mercantile agent to another party. And who is the mercantile agent? He's the person who can sell, consign the goods, or even pledge the goods on for the purpose of sale. Sir, am I visible? I think some technical error has happened. Hello? Hello? Sir, I'm just changing. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, students, I hope you can hear me now. I think there was some network error in between. All right. All right. Let's continue further. If B wants to buy, Aisha, in which query you're asking if B wants the product? Sale is not complete. Children, you can ask your queries. I'll just give you 5 minutes for your queries. Sale by mercantile agent. I hope you all have understood this. Network just went off in between when we were doing sale by mercantile agent. So 3 points have to be seen. If you are in possession of the goods, if you are my mercantile agent whom I have appointed to do business on my behalf, you can sell the goods. You can either further consign the goods. Even if you want, you can pledge the goods for the purpose of business. So mercantile agent, even if he's not the owner, Section 27 of Sale of Goods Act has given him the right to sell the goods further to the buyer. And whosoever is buying the goods from this mercantile agent will get a valid title, means even if a non-owner is selling, then also he gets a valid title to the goods. Similarly, sale by one of the joint owners, say for example, A, B, and C are the 3 brothers and they are jointly owning a television and VCR. Now, B and C has consented that the VCR will be kept in possession of A. So possession means custody. Although A, B, and C, all are the 3 joint owners of this TV and VCR, but it was in my possession. I am Mr. A, B and C has allowed me that you keep this TV in a VCR in your possession. A sells the TV and VCR to P. Now, law says if this Mr. P has acted in good faith and has no knowledge that A had no authority to sell. A had no authority to sell means A अकेला ओनर थोड़ी ना है. A, B and C तीनों ओनर है ना. तो A के पास खाली अथॉरिटी तो नहीं हो सकती है. अगर आप भी मेरे जॉइंट ओनर्स हो तो आपको भी तो मैं कंसल्ट करूंगी ना. आपको भी तो परमिशन है ना उस चीज को, प्रोडक्ट को बेचने का. सो बट जो P है, जो बायर है, उसको ये बात नहीं पता है. He had no authority. He had no knowledge that A had no authority to sell. Therefore, buyer will get a good title. So you can mark down the points in this in case of sale of joint owners. Number 1, if one of the joint owner is in the possession of the goods with the permission of co-owners. That means you are holding the goods with B and C's permission, no? So number one, you are in the possession of the goods. Number two, permission of co-owners has been taken. Number three, property will get transferred to the buyer who buys them in good faith. Number four, the buyer has no knowledge that the seller had no authority to sell. Buyer ko nahi pata, he is an innocent purchaser. He came to your shop, he thought that you are only the owner and he is buying the goods. In mercantile agent also, he came to your shop, he thought that you are the true owner and he is buying the goods on good faith. So section 27 and 28 हमने दोनों आज समझ लिए. General rule है that only the owner can sell the goods. If you're the owner, you cannot sell the goods. Section 27 says if you're a mercantile agent, buyer is buying the goods in good faith, buyer has no knowledge that you had no authority to sell, and you are acting in the ordinary course of business, you are having the goods with the consent of owner, you can pass a good title. Section 28, you are the joint owner. You have the goods in your possession with the permission of other co-owners. You sell the goods to a buyer who is buying in good faith, and buyer does not know that you have no authority to sell. Buyer को लगा आप ही owner हो उस TV और VCR के, then you can pass a good title to the goods. Clear हो गया? We'll continue with this topic further. I'm here for 2-3 minutes more. In case now you can ask your doubts. Akshay Kumar is still stuck with how to write the answers in the exam. I told you when we will do more descriptive questions, children, we have already done 2-3 descriptive case studies today. So when we do more descriptive case studies, I'll teach you how to write the answers there. Apart from that, anyone has any doubts, you can send your queries. Bharat Chaudhary, innocent buyer means the buyer who has just come to your shop. So if I am a seller and I have 2 other joint owners with me, so when you come to my shop, will you ask the shopkeeper, are you the only owner or you have another joint owners? आप तो एक innocent buyer हो ना. Innocent means आप normal एक customer हो मेरे पास जो आए हो और ये सोच के goods लेकर जा रहे हो that I am the owner of the goods. Okay, this is the meaning of innocent buyer. In example 15, can B and C sue A? Why will they sue A? They made the valid sale. It's okay. They'll just divide the profits among each other. It's a joint owner sale, has been made by joint owners. Miss Srishti Pandey, if the joint owners are making the sale and you are the innocent buyer, you had no authority that he is not the owner. And if you are aware that he's the joint owner, then also he's charging the exact amount, he's making a valid sale, then it's absolutely fine. Okay. Thank you so much, Ritu Tiwari. I'm so happy that you enjoyed the explanation and you have understood clearly. Thank you so much. Thank you, Akshay. Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Samina. Thank you, Arun Kumar. Great, Ayushi Jan. No queries. Good. Okay. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Nidhi Yadav. I'm glad everything is clear. Okay. So I cannot find any queries so far. So I hope everything is clear. Thank you, Srishti. Great. You all enjoyed the class. So your homework is just go through all the examples that we have done in the class today and come prepared for descriptive case studies. We will be having a test in the class itself. And we'll try to wind up this chapter in the next class and we'll be starting with the unpaid self. All right. Thank you so much. Goodbye, children.